Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly delightful narrative essay by a writer named TK. It perfectly captures a wonderfully vivid slice of everyday married life. I want you to imagine a quiet Sunday morning. The house is completely still, the sun is pouring brightly through the living room windows, and a fresh pot of morning coffee has just finished brewing. It's the kind of peaceful scene we all crave. But today, we're talking about how the simple act of taking a walk, combined with the surprisingly intense emotional power of a book, can turn a totally ordinary, comfortable afternoon into an absolute emotional roller coaster. Let's get right into it. So picture this gorgeous, clear Sunday. You'd completely expect someone returning from a morning walk to look refreshed, right? Energized by the fresh air. But instead, the front door opens, the shoes are kicked off, and a husband walks in looking absolutely emotionally devastated, like his whole world just collapsed. And the culprit behind this misery? A paperback book. Okay, let's dive into this and rewind to how this supposedly peaceful morning actually started. We start with Section 1, a certain Sunday morning. To set the scene for you, it's May 17th. The author of the essay, the wife, notes that the sky is just incredibly clear. Even the breeze blowing gently through their open windows seems to be in a fantastic mood. And on days exactly like this, she observes that her husband likes to put on what she calls a slightly cultural face. You know the look. Instead of just doom scrolling on his phone on the living room couch, he grabs a physical book and heads out into the sun for his own micro-hero's journey. By 10 a.m., he's out the door. By 11:30, he's found a quiet park bench to crack open the spine. By 1 p.m., he's nestled in a cafe, chuckling to himself over a cup of coffee. He is basically treating his Sunday like he's the star of a breezy early summer indie film. But then, as the afternoon rolls on, that lovely indie film takes a remarkably dark turn. Because by 3 p.m., he returns home completely shattered. So, what on earth actually happened? Let's get into Section 2, The Husband and the Book. The catalyst for today's grand adventure is a book by the philosopher Rei Nagai titled Sorry for Being Lonely. Now, the husband had a classic textbook case of tsundoku. If you haven't heard of it, it's this brilliant Japanese concept for buying books and just letting them pile up unread on your nightstand. But as his wife humorously points out, tsundoku is really just a convenient excuse for letting a book sleep, which simply means you just haven't bothered to read it yet. But today, with the sun shining and that cultural mood striking, the book finally wakes up from its slumber. And that leads us directly into Section 3, one-sided intimacy while reading. According to the husband, this particular book is written almost like a diary. It's full of these straightforward, deeply honest thoughts that he finds absolutely fascinating. And you can see his emotional investment building steadily throughout the afternoon. At first, he's just reading quietly. Then, picture him sitting on that sun-dappled bench, letting out quiet little chuckles to himself. Before long, he's moved to a bustling cafe where he is actually laughing out loud, completely oblivious to the strangers who are definitely giving him sideways glances. Internally, he is feeling this sudden, profound connection to the author. He literally feels like he truly, deeply understands her feelings. The infatuation reaches an absolute peak. In fact, he comes home bursting with his newfound energy and proudly declares to his wife, "This is super crazy, isn't it? I think I might like her." The wife, of course, observes this grand romantic proclamation from the kitchen with a very healthy dose of dry amusement. It's that classic, completely one-sided intimacy of reading. The author Rei Nagai is miles away, completely unaware of this man's existence. But suddenly she is deeply beloved by a random husband who just spent his afternoon sitting in a cafe. He is totally, undeniably infatuated with the mind behind the words. But every good indie movie needs a dramatic plot twist. Welcome to Section 4, a sudden heartbreak. The narrative pivots so sharply here from a breezy, romanticized Sunday walk to a moment of just unexpected emotional turmoil. Right at the absolute height of his literary crush, the husband hits a brick wall. A single sentence shatters him. The author writes, "I have no interest in fantasy." And for some reason, this specific sentence completely breaks his heart. He feels like he has been personally, brutally rejected by the author he just fell in love with. The sheer comedic tension of this moment in their everyday married life is absolute gold. On one hand, you have the husband. He's moping around the house like he took 3 heavy blows to the head. He's agonizing out loud, saying, "I'm just a human who dreams of fantasy." He even dramatically complains that the book was specifically structured to make him fall in love, only to cruelly push him off a cliff. Meanwhile, his wife is silently observing this ridiculous spectacle. Her brilliantly grounded inner retort, "Buddy, the only thing that fell was your interpretation." Nobody's blaming him, least of all the actual book. He just completely fabricated a whirlwind romance and then fabricated a devastating breakup all in his own head, all in the span of a few hours. Which brings us to the emotional aftermath. In Section 5, embracing the unknown. So, how does he handle the rest of his walk after being so brutally dumped by a paperback? Well, he acts like a mature adult. He swallows his pride, turns the page, and keeps right on reading anyway. And hilariously, as he keeps reading, the sting of that rejection fades, and he immediately gets infatuated with the author all over again. His emotions are just entirely too busy for one peaceful Sunday. To top it all off, he actually tries to intellectualize this profound, heartbreaking experience. Pulling out his phone, he starts furiously Googling what is a philosophical question. He then proudly explains to his wife that it means asking why apart from simple causality. The wife notes that, honestly, he doesn't really look like he understands what that means at all. But there he stands in their living room with this wonderfully satisfied yet slightly confused look on his face, having successfully survived his great emotional ordeal. And that brings us to our final section, a breeze in everyday life. As the wife watches her husband excitedly recount his ridiculous afternoon, she feels this lovely mix of slight envy and deep appreciation. She watches him and realizes something actually quite profound. It really is a rich day when a single book can make you laugh, physically hurt you, and then pull you right back in. In an age where it's so incredibly easy to just waste a Sunday staring passively at a screen or letting the hours slip by unnoticed, his capacity to be so profoundly moved by printed words on a page is actually a really beautiful thing. The true beauty of this totally ordinary afternoon lies in watching him hold on to the unknown. Even though he came home slightly confused, his heart had been thoroughly toyed with. To his wife, seeing him physically and emotionally swayed by a book is a true sign of life. It gives her hope. It shows her that even within the deeply comfortable, highly predictable routine of their everyday married life together, her husband isn't stagnant. He still has plenty of room inside him to open the windows and let new winds blow in. And that brings us to the end of this explainer. The author wraps up her reflection with a wonderfully warm, lingering thought. Which book will dump him next? It's just a perfect summary of their dynamic. Affectionate, slightly teasing, and deeply appreciative of the little, vivid adventures you can find in everyday life. So I leave you with a question of your own. When was the very last time you let a book take you on a complete emotional roller coaster, break your heart, and win you back, all before dinner? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I hope you find a book that totally devastates you in the absolute best way possible.